Ladies and gentlemen, if Trump regains the Oval Office, all of these indictments, the federal indictments, the recent ones, will be dropped if he gets convicted in D.C. for the indictments regarding 2020 or in New York because of hush money payments that were not illegal in any way, shape, or form. The FEC didn't find Trump. They fined Clinton for the Steele dossier and the DNC. All of this will be overturned by the Supreme Court. So any conviction will be overturned by the Supreme Court. When or if Trump regains the Oval Office, his Department of Justice will drop all of these charges. If you don't believe me, just listen to this. Washington Post, Supreme Court overturns corruption conviction of former Virginia Governor McDonnell. Washington Post, Politico, Supreme Court overturns Bob McDonnell's corruption conviction. It was a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court because guess what? They found Jack Smith, who was a part of this, who's the special counsel, and other prosecutors did not do their job correctly, and they overturned the conviction, of former Virginia governor. So, NPR Supreme Court throws out former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell's conviction. Then you have John Edwards, that Jack Smith, the special counsel, was a part of also. John Edwards trial, Justice Department drops case. Politico, New York Times, John Edwards not guilty, mistrial on 5 others. So you're going to have either mistrials or a complete, the Supreme Court throwing out any conviction of Trump, and I'll explain why. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Okay, Trump did not defraud the United States, which is one charge. He did not obstruct a government proceeding, and he did not deprive people of civil rights. He did none of those things. And that is these indictments are even more irrational and vindictive than the others. In New York, you have misdemeanors that are elevated to felonies. So they're trying desperately, Democrats, not an impartial justice system in New York, the same New York that allowed a person with an island to get away with a whole bunch of things because he gave a great deal to Democrats for a long time until finally he was imprisoned. Justice works very differently if you give money. Look at Sam Bankman-Fried. Crypto collapse, billions upon billions lost, and you never hear about him in the New York Times. In fact, the New York Times gave a wonderful report on the crypto billionaire that swindled billions and billions of dollars. But anyway, you're going to get eventually the truth coming out that this is an obvious attempt by Democrats to hide the clear-cut corruption, not just corruption, bribery, graft, quid pro quo, pay-to-play schemes of Biden and Hunter and people around them. People are giving money to Biden to alter U.S. foreign policy, force out a prosecutor, for example, or the illusion of altering U.S. foreign policy or influence, You have an email from a laptop full of incriminating emails saying, how can you use your influence on our company's behalf? Literally asking for influence of Hunter and Joe, and then the influence is given. But see, that's another story, Their best defense is a good offense. This is purely politics. Everything is partisan nowadays. There's never going to be another Watergate moment in American history if things don't change. In Watergate, both Republicans and Democrats say, hey, that's bad. Nixon broke into, or people working for Nixon broke into the Watergate building. That's a felony. That's bad. Everyone agreed it was bad. Today, you would have all of media, no, nobody broke in. All of these publications from the Daily Beast to Vox to the New York Times, the Washington Post, the New Yorker, New York Magazine, the Atlantic. Yes, Democrats broke into the RNC, but Trump is worse. There'll never be another Watergate moment. Hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. To read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, and other publications, go to hagoodman.com. To the members, I love you. Thank you. To everybody here, I thank you so very, very much. I love you too. And if you want to give a super thanks, that's below. Okay, number one. How do I explain this? Okay, there was the wonderful host from the Young Turks. And he was on Patrick Bet-David, PBD podcast. Absolutely fantastic. I love Patrick Bet-David. Okay. Mr. Uyghur stated the following, which is all not true. He stated to Patrick Bet-David, Trump knew he was wrong. No, he didn't. Trump truly believed that a whole bunch of bizarre, peculiar, outlandish things took place. Okay, he was up in a whole bunch of states, 6, 7, and then the next morning, not. Okay, Trump did not try to deceive. That's how Democrats work. It was a fair and neutral primary. It wasn't fair and neutral. They cheated Bernie Sanders. Interesting that this gentleman doesn't think that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Actually, Bernie Sanders endorsed and then unendorsed this man. Who was on Patrick Bet-David talking about how bad Trump is and how evil Trump supporters are for the most bigoted writing. And so Bernie Sanders unendorsed that man after endorsing him because of a very negative response from other progressives. But anyway, Trump, number one, believed everything he was doing. Number two, if there were 60 or 1,000 court cases that he lost, there were no investigations pertaining to the court cases. There weren't congressional subpoenas. There wasn't any media support. There wasn't any attempt at that moment to actually have an investigation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, intelligence agencies weren't backing Trump with his direct political rivals. There was a dossier they purchased. They utilized a nonsensical, completely fabricated dossier. There were congressional committees, testimonies. Oh my God. He got none of that. So, of course, if you litigated Trump-Russia, which was a blatant lie that they knew was false, not that they, unlike Trump who believed that he was railroaded, they knew that Trump didn't work with the Kremlin. They still went and investigated forever. So when that guest at PBD podcast said, well, he lost 70, 80 court cases, there was not one true investigation. And it was within the span of 2 weeks. And you had the entire American political establishment saying, no, everything's fine. No. Okay, this is after Twitter and other social media sites censored and silenced and banned the New York Post reporting. Okay, number two, when there were investigations, like in Arizona, the company that found a whole bunch of peculiarities, nobody investigated those peculiarities. There were fact check and rebuttals and debunking by, we asked this state official. We asked this law professor. And then it's debunked. You get no benefit of any media support or any investigation. No, his claims were not investigated. And then they say, there's recounts. There's so many ways for people who work in local or state government, or I should say, let's just put it this way, state and local government officials who stand to lose the most from any peculiarities will, of course, ensure that, any recount, any quick investigation finds nothing. It's the same. And so any questions that people have, Rudy Giuliani has a list of very peculiar, odd, outlandish things that took place that the people at the Young Turks and others haven't investigated. If the tables were turned and the shoe were on the other foot, they wouldn't stop investigating that Trump had a more romantic relationship with a Martian. So, anyway, the point is, he didn't try to overturn democracy. The Federal Bureau of Investigation stated he had nothing to do with that day in January. Terrible, terrible day. $1 billion to $2 billion in property damage. The summer that summer, but of course that one day everyone focuses on. It was a terrible day, and according to the Honorable Christopher Wray, there's a likelihood of government involvement. Federal Bureau of Investigations agents likely, according to the testimony, were there. They did not say that there were no government officials there. That's because likely there were. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. This will definitely not result in any criminal Trump will not serve even a second in prison. Not so for Biden or Hunter or others, especially if Trump regains the Oval Office. There's enough evidence of criminal activity with Biden. There's zero evidence of criminal activity with Trump. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe.